Hello and welcome to Upstage Downstage.
With me, Richard Platt, seated in the upper circle.
And me, Stephen Rees, seated in a cheap seat. This is the Theatre Podcast, where we discuss productions we've seen, things we've liked and may not have liked, giving our complete unprofessional and non-biased opinions.
So grab a brew, take a seat and let's raise that curtain.
On today's edition of Upstage Downstage, we'll be discussing Identical, which we saw on the 26th of July and the 1st of August 2022 at Nottingham Playhouse. The sensational new musical based on the novel The Parent Trap by Eric Kastner. So Richard, what's it all about?
This classic tale tells the story of twin girls separated at birth and reunited by chance at a summer camp 10 years later. To get to know their parents and reconcile the two halves of their family, they decide to swap places and live in each other's lives. Identical has music and lyrics by George Stiles and Anthony Drew, the multi-award winning writers of the West End hit Honk, and also created a new score for the international smash hit Cameron Mackintosh Disney production of Mary Poppins, with a book by Stuart Patterson, and is touted as the must-see musical of the summer.
So with all that said, let's set the scene! So Richard, we saw this show separately, didn't we?
Yes.
I saw mine on the press night, and you saw...
Yeah, I saw one of the preview nights.
The preview night.
So
yeah.
I actually saw the first preview night, so it was actually the world debut to a paying audience night, the one I saw. So, because normally they do previews, if it's a new show, they'll do previews before they actually have the press night. So it's nice because we've got a different contrast of what actually happened.
Yeah, when I turned up there, I was slightly running a bit late, just trying to get parked and stuff. But the moment I actually walked into the Nottingham Playhouse, it was just full of people.
Yeah.
I mean, I know plays get busy, but it was for press night. Just the atmosphere was just buzzing. There were so many people, so many kids as well. And I didn't realise until seeing the show and the end of it that actually the other sets of twins, were in there seeing the show, so they could take the bow at the end and take the pictures and stuff, which was quite nice.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's set the scene.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So when you walk into the Playhouse theatre to the actual space, there's basically all you can really see on stage are trees and a gauze with the words Identical projected onto the actual screen. So it doesn't lead you into knowing what's actually going to happen on stage. In some ways, I prefer that with a production because it's the confidence of hiding everything, knowing that it's going to be so much more
revealing.
Because when everything's just revealed to you straight away, it gives too much away. You don't know what's going to happen, and you can almost predict how the play.
I don't know, you know.
Go.
I think sometimes you can have plays. You can have a set on the stage, and people go, "Oh, look at that! That's quite interesting," you know.
Yeah.
But I think because this is probably due to it being a new one, they wanted to keep everything still to themselves and not reveal too much. But then saying that, when it got into it, it was pretty much a bare stage production.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, in reflection, it's actually a fully bare stage production with minimal anything really. But it's cleverly done, and we'll talk about that further down the line. But
yeah, the technical aspect of it, we certainly will do. But I suppose we can't really say too much about the set because it was just a projection.
Yes. Yeah, it was clever use of projections and set pieces that actually created the scene, shall we say. So setting the scene was very much done with extended props and furniture, really, to create each different part of the musical. Yeah, did it have tabs coming down? I can't remember now. Did it have tabs coming down for the ballroom scene and when they went into... The posh house. Yeah, there were certain tabs that dropped in, and there were certain doorways dropped in, and a black screen was dropped down just to change the shape of the stage if the scene wasn't warranting the whole full stage, which was very cleverly done. So it actually made you focus in on almost a letterbox view of the actual production. So you focused in a certain area of the stage, and I thought that was cleverly done to show that there was different scenes all the way through. Yes, it gave you a different perspective and focus, and to draw your eyes narrowly down into a smaller thing. What else do we need to say about the set? At the very start, it begins at this campsite. Was it in Switzerland? It's based in Vienna in Switzerland. It's based in the Swiss Alps, really, or Austrian. Very much a log cabin. In the summer, so
the sun was shining, the clouds were going by, and
and it was a summer school for children where they went away to do not school related things, but a lot of it was outdoor and a lot about enjoying themselves and having a time away from their family. Really,
I went to a summer camp before when I was little, but I think it was a religious thing. I didn't enjoy myself at all, and in fact I hated going. So I wished I'd done something like this. Mind you, I was in the Scout. I didn't particularly enjoy that either.
This was definitely set in a period that was without mobile phones, it was very, very pre-technology. So it was all about, it was set in an era that showed that there was the most technology they had was cameras and the sort of, old-fashioned 35mm cameras and things like that, but there wasn't actually anything modern used. So it's quite a good use of modern technology with use of projections, but to actually show a time gone by, really.
Yes, because when the two twins were talking to each other later on throughout the show, they were using landlines, weren't they?
Yeah.
And this is based on the Parent Trap.
Yeah.
Right, but is that the film it's based on? Or the book?
Okay. It's actually based on, but the film's referenced, but it's actually based on the book, the original book that was written. Yeah, so it was written in 1949. So basically it was very post-war, very...
As for the rest of the stage, the set of it has some good sets.
Yeah.
We start with the set being in a summer camp in the field, and the backdrop projected was basically hills and
trees
clouds
and a lake and
then to one side there was a couple of chalets. What do you call them?
There was,
little huts, wooden huts.
I mean, one of the things we'll talk more technically later, but the set changed to move round to them actually ending up in the huts and having different scenes set by the cast moving beds on to actually show that they were in a chalet, and then it went back outside. So the scenes changed quite a lot using projections and things like that. So it worked really well. And
because it was that scene when they discovered that they were twins.
Yes,
wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, it was basically a new influx of children coming into the actual summer camp, and the two identical twins bumped into each other as part of the meeting at the summer camp, basically, which then leads to the rest of the production and them spending time together to then
having the idea to go their separate ways and get their parents
to switch sides and go back. So then we move on to another scene where you basically see half and half of a stage, where half of it is actually Paris at a restaurant and the other half is the train station where the other twin arrives to see their mother. So one side's the father, one side's the mother. So they
was that a train station?
Yeah, one side was the train station with the train conductor. The guard was there, and the other side was because there was trains with smoke at the back.
Yeah, maybe that just passed me by. I don't know what I was thinking about.
Because that's the bit where the girl didn't like herring.
Yeah, that's right.
That was the cafe side, and the other side was the
I got
train
that, and
station.
I got the split stage, but I probably just didn't even pay much attention to the fact that they were at a train station just outside.
But it was cleverly done, where the set pieces in front of the projections gave you those moments. So just to create more of a 3D image, you had a station light and a bench brought out from one side, and then tables and chairs on the other side for the Parisian cafe on the other. So it gave you the depth of. It wasn't just reliant on the projections. They had things and signs that showed that each side was different. And
also, as we got into the story a lot more, we had certain buildings become 3D. Then so we had like corner steps of the one particular building or doors, and then the composer's house, the internals of that, and but
also through to the ballet performance in the theatre, where basically they dropped in a proscenium arch, but the rest was projections and a few gold boxes from a theatre where they sat next to the stage to create the feeling that you were in a theatre with lavish boxes, and then everything else was projection. But it was done really cleverly, where the blend of it was really well done, so you actually didn't feel the difference between the two.
Yeah, so from the very get-go, you think it's going to just be very, very bare.
Yes.
But then bit by bit, they kept adding those like little Lego pieces on throughout the play, building up the old...
And also to flip the side, it helped with them because straight after that scene where they were doing the ballet on stage, they flipped the set almost like Noises Off, where they flipped it round to see the background workings of a stage, where they had set pieces hung up and they had a piano on stage, and then they had like a piece of set that was just lying about to show that the actual
What bit was
scene,
that in?
that was after the ballet scene where they were in the back of the theatre.
She writes, oh, you can add this extra little bit there?
Yeah, that was the bit.
Oh,
so,
I didn't realise that was
so
at the back.
That was the back of the set, but all it was
I
done
never got
with
that.
projection, and it was the flip side of coming off stage and going backstage, and it was really cleverly done quickly, and that was...
I knew it was backstage, but I didn't realise that it was like the other side of the theatre.
Yeah, it was...
I was probably concentrating on the little girl playing the piano.
Yeah, but they brought like big sort of big seating out just for somebody to sit on, and there was moments that just helped just change it in because it was done so quickly. The pace was really good in the piece because of that. You could get a lot of scenes in this production fast because they blended the projections and the set pieces very well. It was enough just to create those spaces.
Well, whilst we're talking about all though, how about we talk about the direction? How do you think that was?
I thought it was done really well and cleverly done, because it was directed by Trevor Nunn.
Yes, that's right.
And I
had to just double check.
Trevor Nunn has done a lot of theatre in his time. He spent 18 years at the Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford-on-Avon.
He's done all the Shakespeare plays, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's done every... I think he's gone through all of them. He also directed Starlight Express in its original form, which, if people have listened to my introduction, that was one of my first musicals that I ever saw.
I know him for doing Acorn Antiques.
There you
That's
go.
how I first heard of him.
But that shows the variety of direction that he's done. It doesn't surprise me that they've got him involved because of his experience of directing a piece. And one thing I'd like to say is they were very good at directing the children that are in the production at the start of the production, because there's obviously 3 sets of twins they have to direct and make sure their performances are top rate, but then there's also a big group of children from the local areas that they have to direct and get to a stage where they can actually perform really well, and they don't look like a group of children from a theatre school, because this is a production that you want to watch it and believe those children are going to that summer camp, not from a theatre school, and I think they've done that really well. It didn't come across that they were all just there to show that they come from a specific school. It wasn't a panto performance where the kids are just there to dance and sing. They were all very much part of the opening part of the production.
Oh yes,
and that's, and then equally directing that, and then the parents of the 3 sets of twins, the mum and the dad, interacting with 3 sets of twins. It must have been a lot of work to actually work out that whole routine of spending equally enough time with each set of twins to actually put on a great performance. Because
that connection.
Because obviously with the working rules and the child labour rules, you have to adhere to all those. So I understand why there weren't as many children in the production after the interval, because they can only work so much that day.
Yeah. Well, in the brochure program, we've got 10 chaperones listed.
Yeah,
that's how many
and that's just to chaperone the children, not actually to perform on stage. So that there's so much more to this production than meets the eye, and I can see why they've spent a lot of time and a lot of time on directing it to do it well, because it's like doing Oliver. You don't see Oliver tour very much because of the sheer amount of children involved. You'll see it in London or Manchester, but you won't see it across the country. Because there's so much more commitment as a production because of how many children are in it. So that's why they don't take things lightly when they have a big production like this. Because at first, I mean, you see the poster and you just think it's going to be 2 twins for the whole production. You don't know there's actually going to have a big cast. It doesn't lead you to believe that before you walk in the room, in a way.
How do you think it just went and flowed between each scenes and how everyone sort of not necessarily talking about their acting skills, but just more how things were directed?
I thought it flowed really well, and cast were used to do scene changes, set changes. There was a few times as somebody else came on stage to move things, but generally I thought it moved really smoothly.
Yes, I didn't notice any flawed bits of direction. Like we've seen other shows, and we can pinpoint, oh, what did I do that for? Or, I would have done that, or what's that about?
Yeah, exactly.
But it's strange in a way, because this is a production where everything was pretty much bang on.
Yeah.
And it's like pulling teeth trying to find something that's wrong.
But I think it's
whatever.
not just that. To pick up on the twins that they selected to do the production, they were the glue for the whole production, really, to keep it together. Yeah. And it's a lot of pressure on a set of twins to act and sing and perform at the same level of each other anyway, but then to also carry the production. I thought it was very, very confident and very trusting of a director to be able to do it. So they didn't write small parts for the children. Let's say that, this is definitely a celebration of how talented some children can be to perform.
And I think that is a good segue to move on to the writing now.
Yeah.
Because it's a new play.
Yeah, I thought it was written well, and I thought it didn't go over the top with...
Is it true to the actual story then, if you've seen this before?
I think it's true to the story, because they're limited with 144 pages worth of book. They can't, if they say the production is based on a book, it's very difficult to deviate from that context, shall we say. So if you're advertising it as that, you set it in the time period it was written, it's very difficult to change the context or write it differently.
If it's based on it, then they could potentially expand and explore certain things if it's based on it.
Yeah, true.
But if it's doing it like...
But if they decided as a company to stay within that realm, I mean, I can understand from an all ages perspective that they'd probably want to keep within the realms of the book if they wanted to encourage people to read it. And obviously there is 2 films already out there with the same plot and same plot points, so it may be that they still wanted to keep it within that realm as well.
What about the because it's a musical, what about the songs? Because I know, listening to it, I thought it was really good,
Yes.
the structure of the songs and everything, and how they were trying to convey what they wanted out of that scene, or what their journey was, or what they want, all those hopes, I hope this, or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a couple of songs which, If I Became You, I thought that was a really good one.
Yeah, I thought that was good.
What they could do if I became you, and
it was exploring things, but I think that the songs did actually transport the production along, because I think I'm big on, if a song's there, why is it there, and has it got any purpose? And I do feel
the whole point is to push the story and the narrative forward.
Yeah.
But it's in a musical, that's the whole point of it, really.
I didn't think there was any pointless songs in there, and I think sometimes I've seen other productions where they've written something and you're thinking, what's the purpose of that in the song? It's a good song, but why? Well, what does it do?
Yeah, some musicals you can see, and it's constant song after song after song with very little dialogue.
Yeah.
Because each song pushes the narrative, pushes the story and everything, and they're great.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you get a musical where it's a lot of dialogue, and then every now and again a few songs interjected, but they don't benefit.
Yeah, it's like
they don't give anything to the scene.
The editing
or
wasn't
the characters.
there.
It just an extra 5 minutes of nothing. But whereas these songs, they did actually, like I say, they brought out the characters' responses and the feelings and everything.
Definitely.
What they could do.
I mean, it's like Identical. The mother singing Identical. That was it was a really cleverly put in song that I think it was written well, because it was a mother questioning things, and realizing there was a realization at that point, and there was a few other songs that, I mean, You're My Sister, some of that song that was written,
nice,
I think
one.
That was really cleverly done, because if you heard it on its own it would stand up as a song. I think some of the songs that were written were really well made, and I mean, personally, when I found out who was actually the songwriter, so George Stiles and Anthony Drew, they have actually written the extra work and the songs for Mary Poppins, which is one of my favourite musicals that I have seen it 3 times. And so that's the testament to that. I mean, but to know that they wrote all the incidental and extra songs for Mary Poppins, the musical, you could tell that there was their stamp on this musical. And I think that if you listen to the Mary Poppins soundtrack and then listen to this one, you'll start hearing similarities. And I think that, and it's not that they are the same, it's just that they have got a style, and they put their stamp on this in that way. And I think that shows, because in the Mary Poppins songs, they drive the production the same. They're not wasted. They're not just written to fill a gap. They actually add and extend and make the production bigger than what you see on the film. They actually make it feel more of a West End performance rather than just a Disney film that people know from the film, rather than a stage production.
Now, in terms of the actual play and the plotting of it, and the characterisation and the progress of each character journey, and we all know you like to talk about the journey.
I love a journey.
How did you feel?
I felt it was very balanced, because in a way it's more, the story is about the family. Every other cast member are there as they're the agitators, or they're the people that shake the floor to question things in a way. And but it's a story about the twins and the parents finding the way back to each other in a way. But everybody else in the walk of life sort of shakes the floor, shall we say. So there's like the love interest for the dad that creates things. And I feel that they gave enough time to each character to explore that.
Well, the father's fiancée, shall we say, she's there in a way, so they want to have their parents reunite and get back together, but she's the whole reason that's stopping them from doing that.
Yes.
So then she's the sort of a spanner in the works there, which causes a lot of the drama and the tension, and it's not going to be easy to do it, and these are the things thrown in the way. For me, I'm not convinced that the writing holds up in terms of the whole structure and the premise and the catalyst. For example, at the very start, I understood the fact that they were separated at birth.
Yeah.
But the main question that you ask is how and why and when, and what are the reasons why they weren't told of each other. And I'm not quite sure, I'm not convinced still that I got a resolution that was plausible in all that.
No.
Because let's cut along to where they do actually meet each other, the kids, and they find that one's poor, one's rich. We do, in the end, find out at the the resolution where the actual parents meet again. Why did they split up? Because one was poor. But yet, how is it you could split your twins up?
Yeah.
Morally, how could you split it? If you're both poor, what makes you think we're best off working and living separately and raising one each instead of being together and pooling your resources? Because that's what gripes me about this play, or this whole thing, is the reason for them separating isn't strong enough. It's like they've got an idea that they want to follow these twins and getting back together again and finding each other. You know, that's a good setup. But the thing that's the catalyst of them being separated to begin with is weak in this. Yeah. And all of a sudden, he's in love with the girl who's this performer in this ballet. She's like really amazing and everything. And then his daughter's taken an interest in playing the piano that hasn't before. And then he discovers the mother. Well, if he somehow falls in love again with her, a bit like a fairy tale, if he falls in love with her again, well, why did he fall out of love? Yeah. How can you go back to something if you weren't right? It seemed a bit contrived and a bit forced and a bit it's a quick way out of knitting your loose ends together just for a happy ending, when actually I don't feel like it deserved the happy ending because it just seemed fake. After all that good, it was a good build up in the actors and the musical and everything, but the whole premise of them splitting up to begin with, for me, didn't hold mustard.
For me, the only way it could have, on reflection, could have actually made more sense is if, because this was written post-war, maybe they could have used the war as a reason for them making a rash decision. There could have been more power in that at the start, or finding that out, that actually they were torn apart because of the war, or something happened that, maybe that could have been the pressure because people made rash decisions, or things where children were sent away for the entire war and things like that. It could have had more power if they'd have maybe explored that side of it,
possibly,
to actually show that that's why they were split up, because they had to make a decision otherwise for survival. Whereas, like you say, it didn't have that power as to the reason they had to separate as a family, because it's easier to disappear as two people rather than four. You don't know, do you?
Well, the Von Trapps got over the hill altogether,
they did,
and there were 7 of them.
Yeah, but they all had to hide individually or separately. There was those. And that could have helped. that narrative a little bit, maybe.
Possibly, but if we go on the principle that they're both poor, he's interested in his career. I mean, she might be to begin with or whatever. I'm not quite sure, but he's this compare. But then when we actually cut to see them current day, he's wealthy. He's in this palace that's just amazing, just really, and he's got a helper, a cook, a chef. What is she? A housekeeper? Something like that.
Housekeeper.
If you can afford to pay that, why didn't you think, oh, I've got money now. I wonder if she's still single. The love of my life, my other daughter. Why wouldn't you get them back? As if you just cut your other daughter off, your other twin. Oh, not your twin, but the twin of your daughter. Why would you actually just forget all about them? And then, why would you not actually acknowledge that, have that conversation with that person?
I mean, as well. I mean, this.
And I'm probably going a bit too deep for the story.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but this has been translated from Austrian, so it was originally an Austrian story. And
so they don't care about kids.
Well,
twins.
I'll be honest.
One, you have the other.
No, but I'll be honest.
Market,
do we not know if this has been based on a true story? But we don't know the culture that they grew up in. You don't, hard decisions were made.
Okay,
so there's another balance as well.
If this is based on a true story, then perhaps the full backstory of that isn't fully
That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm going. Yeah,
maybe it's more horrific. We don't know.
That's what I mean. We don't know it's hard when you don't know where the writer came from, because a writer has to be inspired by something to create that story. So you don't know if it's based on other things that he knows about.
Now, I'll give you a good example. Now, we've seen Blood Brothers by Willie Russell. Okay, this woman, she's already had kids.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name, but she has twins.
Mrs.
Johnston, that's right. She has twins. She's working for this other woman who can't get pregnant. She's quite well off and posh. So what happens is they separate the kids.
Yeah.
And pretend that she only had the one. So the posh woman.
Yeah.
Whatever. What was it? Poppleton? Mrs. Poppleton or something? I can't remember. But anyway, she brings that up as her own, and the play explores what it's like bringing up a set of twins where one is posh and one's not, basically. So we explore that.
It's a very similar storyline.
It is, but however, there's a backstory. Yes. We know that Mrs. Johnston cannot have any more. She can't look after them. She is skint, and we know the other one really wants it because she cannot get pregnant. She cannot have a kid.
And there are also stories in this country of that happening in that time.
So from there, you understand where the characters are coming from. You understand why they had to do that.
Yeah.
They made a choice and they stuck with it, and then it's the consequences afterwards. Whereas in Identical, Parent Trap, we don't see the consequences of their actions. The actions have already been taken. But for you to close that door to understand what the consequences were at the very beginning,
or to explore it further down the production when there's it doesn't have to start with that, but it's like exactly, there needs to be some context.
You've at the end of the play, you still need to tell them of why they were separated to begin with.
Yeah,
it just seemed a little contrived and a bit throwaway that we were poor, we were young, we were silly, and why would you not have parents not saying, oh, we'll support you, or live together, have both, or I don't know. It just didn't answer that question, and it just didn't sit right with me. So I just felt that whole element of it was extremely weak and lacking. Are you in agreement on that? I mean, you don't have to agree.
I get it. I understand
see
it
as something that's nice and not even think about it.
I think, like I said earlier on, I think it's if they were keeping it within the context of the book and it doesn't explore that, then that's probably where they stop themselves exploring it anymore. So it would be interesting to see what process they went through when they actually went through the book, and if they went down that route, because we don't know. They might have, and they just decided from an editing perspective to not include it. So it would be interesting to revisit the book and see if also find out more about the writer to see if actually he did put any context around it. So it'd be interesting to see if I think that's the way I see it, really.
I think from an audience perspective as well, when I was watching Blood Brothers, the posh lady who had Mrs. Johnston's kid, you could see it in her eyes and how much she longed for that kid. You knew how much the pressure meant, not the pressure, well, the pressure of them finding out, but you knew how much everything meant, and I was more connected to each of them and her, and I got the feelings, and I went on their
Well,
journey
it was
with
needs
them.
and wants, and
Well, exactly,
and
but,
that's the
with,
thing.
with this, I didn't particularly care about the parent. I hadn't had that emotional bond.
No, I suppose because they didn't. There was the context wasn't there the same.
Exactly.
It may be.
I didn't get.
I
I
mean,
didn't
it would
get
just be
them.
interesting to see compared to the book how different the book is to this. That'd be quite interesting to revisit the way it's been written to see if that it was in there. But it'd be interesting to see.
I'd really
Or in
like to know
translation,
the real reason as to
Yeah.
why they couldn't one parent have both, or they couldn't stay together.
Yeah.
'Cause surely it would be easier.
Yeah, it'd be nice
You
to know
know?
the real where the spark of where the actual storyline came from, because no stories are written without a spark of truth. There's a lot of things out there that there's actual meaning behind them.
Anyway, moving on now. Do you know what we're here for? We're
Here for the drama.
in this section. We're going to be talking about the actors. And let's do a couple of shout outs straight away, because there were some amazing cast here.
Yes, there were.
Particularly the twins.
Yes, I mean, what can I say?
We saw the same girls, didn't we?
Yeah, so we both saw Eden and Emmy Patrick, who played the twins. And when you see the training, it explains a lot, because the Sylvia Young Theatre School,
Yeah, very well renowned.
it's very well renowned, and I don't think that there's ever really been a bad bunch come from the Sylvia Young Theatre School. They seem to just do it right, and they're very, they care about their actors and make sure that they do good things and good pieces. So yeah, they were fantastic, and they really showed their stuff. They didn't overshadow each other. They both took the parts and their own parts very well.
Yes.
I mean, there was one point where you didn't know which one was on what side of the stage, because they were identical. They've done well at picking them, so you didn't know if halfway
I got
through the production
confused.
they switched again. They could have had some fun themselves on stage, to be fair.
I wasn't sure if they switched costumes at one point when they're supposed to have done.
Yeah,
When are they going to do that? Oh, they have done, have they?
Have they? Have they really?
Passed me by.
Yeah, and I mean, I would like to shout out to the mum and the dad as well, because I do think they would have worked really hard. Emily Tierney and James Darch, who were Lisa, Lottie and Johan, who, for me, when you find out the calibre, Emily's performed as Glinda in Wicked on tour and in London, so that role takes a lot, and you can see that she has got that performance style in her. And also James Darch, who's also been Fiyero in Wicked, which equally is as big a part as that. And the work they will have had to done to work with those twins would have been amazing, really. And also, I think the Stephen's probably got a shout out as well.
I do, actually. I agree with everything you've just said as well, and we're probably going to be doing a shout out to the whole entire cast of this one. But Gabrielle Lewis Dodson, I thought she was exceptional
Totally
as
agree.
Miss Gerlach. I think that's her name,
Yeah.
Miss Gerlach. We saw her doing the was it Swan Lake? She was
Yes. No, she was doing Hansel and Gretel.
That's it, Hansel and Gretel. But she was like performing this ballet, and just honest to God, her singing voice.
Yeah.
I'd love to actually listen to her just sing just normal songs, because it's just.
I didn't really think a
fantastic.
ballet dancer, opera singer existed until I've seen her perform.
Yeah.
Because she was fantastic in both ballet and opera. It was.
But I don't know what it was about her, but I just immediately took to her when one of the little girl went into her apartment, and she was there with did she have the wedding dress on, or she had the ball gown dress on.
Yes.
And she was sat at the table,
Yeah.
and the little girl came in wet. And I think that particular scene, that was a great scene, and you just saw the emotions on her face, and it being like she knew what was at stake.
Yes.
She knew what that girl was there to sort of split them up, or just be a thorn in her side, and everything she wanted.
But to still be a staunch, driven woman, that even though she sympathised, she still was out for her own goals and her own. There was so much power in her performance on stage. She was just so powerful.
And it was so delicate, and it wasn't as if she begrudged or hated the child of the person she wanted to marry.
I think she admired the tenacity of the child more than anything.
I think it was like, how does this child fit into my life, or how do I fit into this unit that's already purpose built? And you definitely saw that within her performance, and just I think the emotions she gave in her facial expressions.
Yeah, really did.
As well. It was very it was desperate, but not harshly desperate.
No.
Not like the connotation of like a desperate woman.
Yeah, exactly.
It was never like that. No, and it was a fine performance that she gave, and that's why I give a shout out to her.
Definitely. I think I'd like to give a shout out to the ensemble cast, really, because I thought overall all the performers committed to this. And
from the get-go,
yeah,
the woman of... I can't remember. The scout leader.
Yeah, so big shout out to Ellie Nunn, really. She really showed her true colours, really. You know, she was a consummate performer. She had the task of being the first person on stage.
Yeah.
And in a new musical, and with so much risk, and to do this...
She won the audience over straight away.
It was the click of a finger.
Yeah, the moment she just spoke, sang, or whatever she did, she got a laugh, and she got the audience right on their side.
Definitely, really did.
What did you think about the props and the costumes?
I thought they were very well made, and they were very fitting to the performance and the production. There's nothing really out of place.
Yeah, I was going to say that. There was nothing like really bad or...
And I think it was well judged, because even in the second half in the ballroom,
yes,
where all they did was drop in an ornate doorway with like stained glass window in it, and the projections imitated that. And
was there a bar at one?
Yes, there was a bar, and there was also
like
tables on wheels,
table, wasn't there?
And there was lean tables on but with big plumes of flowers coming out of them, and everything was on wheels, or it's moved, or it's put in place. And there was a table here, then there was a desk there, but everything worked and everything was right for the production.
Yeah, nothing was nothing was out of place at all. So let's move on to our next segment.
What the heck is this?
Now, Richard, it was basically it started off as a bear set.
Yes.
The majority of it was technical. Were the LED?
They're LED screens. So basically,
screens.
everything was high definition LED screens for the whole stage. So it wasn't actually a projection. It was more of they were basically a video walls that you'd see at big concerts or big shows on stage, where the whole of the scenery, the flats were made of projection, an LED screen that were all, apart from the back, were movable. And it must have been groundbreaking to actually work hard to make sure that they didn't look out of place, because I think that there was a lot of times where it could have looked tacky and it could have looked cheap.
Yeah.
You know, because it can instantly look wrong. It can instantly look out of place against a normal piece of set. So to get the colours right and to get the actual projections themselves right and the actual images they use to blend with set.
And it moved, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like a live recording.
Yes, yeah. There was times when they wiped across stage, and there were live video work used where the blades of grass were moving, the trees were moving. It felt real rather than it just being a static image. So it was very cleverly used.
What I'd like to know is
how did they do that?
Um,
On those great big screens, where do they come from? How do they get made? What are they?
They basically come in square panels, and you build those panels up based on what you need. So they're all interconnected behind. So there's a lot of technology involved in this, and there's a lot of room for error.
Yeah.
Because things can go wrong with these if they're not done well, and that's why I can see why they committed to it, because it is transferring to the Lowry in Manchester after it's currently there now, and I can see why they actually did commit, because then they can transport the set to another location quite easily. But they're all interconnected, so and then basically an image processor will map that on a computer, where they can actually then project that whole image across each individual one, or control each one individually, or the images on separate ones. So it's a lot of work.
So what happens if one of those square pieces gets damaged or whatever?
It would instantly be noticeable.
Yeah.
But they can replace a panel. So for the next show, they could replace one of the panels and not have to replace the entire thing. So yeah.
That's all right. Because I did often.
It's basically like a lot of TV screens. If you imagine a load of LED TV screens together connected, but there's a flawless link between them, so you don't actually see the join.
Yeah.
So when they're all put together, it's actually it's a right up to the edge screen. So
any other technical aspect? Lighting, sound?
I think lighting and sound was really good, and obviously when you've got a lot of cast with mics and for a musical, it's a lot of work to make sure everybody's mic's on at the right time for a musical, because you don't want anybody offset and off stage not singing, and they used it really well. And
sometimes you notice the odd first line of a word just get like a fade in.
Yes. Yeah, I did. There was a couple of moments that I think that you could tell the technicians were practicing as well, because they've got a lot to take in, and there was the odd thing where the mic wasn't switched on fast enough for certain cast members, but overall as a new piece, I thought they did, because they had a full orchestra as well below the stage as well. So a lot of work, but it worked really well from a set perspective and a technical perspective. I felt I didn't really think I saw any faux pas.
No, I didn't, and not as if I go out expecting something, but, I mean, like, when actors fluff or something goes wrong with the audience or whatever, it doesn't, or props, it doesn't always happen, but, it's quite nice to see those, but it's, I suppose it's probably a relief for the cast as well that nothing like that did happen on the press night. Yeah,
and I mean, when a lot of this set and this technical stuff, these big LED flats are moving, there's people around them, so they've got to be done well, because there's a health and safety risk if something's moved at the wrong time or the wrong this and the wrong that. It can cause problems for the cast, and it can lead to injury if you don't do it right. So it's a lot of commitment.
Call this a show.
Scores on the doors now for Identical, with 10 being seeing double and 1 being barely recognisable. Richard, what are you going to give it?
I give this an 8 out of 10.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because I think it was a really good attempt at a new musical, new writing. Well, when I say new writing, new written songs that weren't in either film. So it's a massive risk to try and pull something off that is instantly watchable. And I enjoyed it. And I did actually go and see it again, and I took my niece.
Yes, you did, didn't you?
And my niece did actually really enjoy it. So I was glad I've seen it again, because it was worth seeing twice. So yeah, and hope it does well in the Lowry in Manchester.
Yeah, I think this is a great one for kids. Just by judging the audience, there's so many kids in there. I don't think they will take on the complexities of the actual storyline and plot and the reasoning behind everything. I think they'll just see it at face value and just see it as these two girls finding each other and getting the mum and dad back together, and it's a bit more like.
And it still teaches a message, doesn't it? I suppose.
It does. I thought it was a good musical. Yeah. I really like the songs, but I'm having difficulty with the catalyst. Like I've said in the writing section. So for me, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
So Richard, let's do a new thing now. What scene would you rerun that you'd want to see again from Identical? Identify. What's the play called?
Identical.
Okay, Identical. Which scene would you like to replay? For me, whilst you think about it then, I'm going to pick the bit where one of the twins comes in with a rain mat because she's soaking wet, and she goes to see her stepsister. No, she doesn't. She goes to see her soon-to-be stepmother. I'm going to say mother-in-law then. And they just have this back and forth dialogue, and they have that song where it's going over each other, but it was just beautifully portrayed and acted and done that I'd love to just revisit that little segment again.
Yeah, good choice.
And what about you?
For me, the one that I like, and I'd probably want to see again, is the camping scene in the second half, the opening to the second half, because for me, I just
with the mother?
With the mother, I just like the way that was done. Yeah, that's the scene I'd pick.
Nice. So, what sound effect will you be choosing from the following? A complete train wreck? Tumbleweed, an audible shrug of the shoulders, a slow clap, a pleasant applause, or a standing ovation. What will it be?
I'd say for the pure hard work, I'd give it a standing ovation for the technical aspect right the way through to the casting and the direction of it. So, yeah, standing ovation for me.
And for me, even though I scored it a 7, I am actually going to give it a standing ovation. And in fact, I actually did.
There we go.
I thought the whole cast was just great. Well, it was great. Apart from the bit that
it was powerful, it was a hit the ground running musical.
Yeah,
they didn't hold back; they just went for it, and that's what you should do with this sort of production.
Yes, and well done to everybody involved and to the twins.
Yeah,
all the twins out there.
Wish it good success in the future.
Yes. So there we are. That's our discussion of Identical. We hope you found it insightful.
If not, entertaining.
Coming up over the next few episodes, we will be discussing A Brief Encounter,
Billy Elliot,
and the clothes they stood up in. That's it for this week, folks.
If you'd like to drop us a message, please email us at upstagedowstagepod@gmail.com. Remember, you can always join in the chat to share with us your views on a production.
Also, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you get every episode the second it's released. And we hope you join us again for another instalment of Upstage Downstage.